Hello Internet! You thought I was dead, but I'm still kicking. I just didn't have time to make any videos. But today is the day I finally found a couple of hours to play some games on my arcade machine, and now I'm ready to talk about that. Since a lot of new subscribers joined my channel in the last couple of weeks, I guess you are still interested in this device. Today I decided I will only release videos in English from now on. There are two major reasons for this. First, my English videos seem to get more views, and second, I enjoy speaking the English, even though I'm not very good at it. So let's get started. If you have been following my channel, you know I made quite a few videos about the 114-in-1 Extreme Plus by Tiny Arcade Machines by now. I made a review about it, answered some of your questions, looked into MAME emulation, and played a lot of Nintendo oldies. So I guess it is time to get into the weird stuff.
We do the weird stuff.
Cool, totally outdated Dr. Horrible reference. If you got it, you're awesome. If you didn't, you should stop watching this stupid crap and watch Dr. Horrible instead. No, seriously, go away and watch Joss Whedon's masterpiece. And now, for the people who are still with me, I'll take a look at the Locomalito section of my arcade machine. You all remember the awesome Locomalito from the 80s, right? You don't? Okay, there might be a reason for that. Locomalito isn't actually the name of a classic gaming system, but the pseudonym a gifted game creator from Spain chose for himself a couple of years ago. Not much is known about this dude. Apparently he made it his life's goal to program as many tributes to the games he played as a kid as possible. He seems to have a couple of collaborators who help him out with music, but most of the work is done by him alone. I wouldn't call him the Banksy of video games since he appears in some YouTube videos, but he is quite the elusive fellow. Anyways, he's been making modern classics for quite a while, and 9 of them ended up in their own category on my arcade machine. Since that is not a huge number, I'll take a look at each and every one of them, and while I'm at it, I'll rank them as well. Let's get started with Libido More. Sorry if I butchered that, but I'm even struggling with this language. This game was obviously created as a love letter to the ZX Spectrum, and as far as I can tell, it is very successful at achieving its goal. The graphics really remind me of the visuals many Spectrum games had. The only problem is that the original system was never part of my childhood. I can totally imagine that true ZX fans will get teary-eyed with nostalgia when they explore the dungeons of Libido More. But I just couldn't get into it. The graphics are simply one step below what I can bear since I grew up playing on the mighty Commodore 64. And the controls bothered me as soon as I figured out that this is one of those titles where you have to push up to jump instead of pushing a button. So it is my least favorite Locomalito game, but that doesn't mean it's bad at all. At number 8 we have Verminous, a simple yet strangely addictive vertical platformer. According to his website, Locomalito made this game as a tribute to a virus he caught. Apparently he promised the little creature that he would make a video game about it if he ever got better. He did, and he did. I actually like this game. It reminds me a little bit of Mr. Driller, which is a guilty pleasure of mine. You basically control a virus and travel through the bloodstream to infect your host. In order to be successful, you have to avoid antibodies and collect blood cells for energy to keep moving. I put this at number 8 because it is a bit too simple. The buttons aren't even used, which makes this a very pure reaction test. I can see myself coming back to this, but only for short visits at a time. As you can hear, the music and sound effects are spot on. That is true for all the Locomalito games. The composers he works with are always able to capture the atmosphere of the old arcade, console and home computer titles they are paying tribute to. Since that is true for all of the games, I will only mention this once. Have you ever wondered what a first-person shooter would have looked like if they had been a thing on the NES and other 8-bit systems? Well, wonder no more, because Locomalito has you covered. 8-Bit Killer is an FPS that looks and sounds as if it was originally released more than half a decade before Wolfenstein 3D, which was the first game of its genre I ever played. It's a cool experience, but I couldn't place it higher than 7 for a number of reasons. My interest in these type of games has come and gone over the last couple of decades. I played through Wolfenstein, Doom, Quake, Unreal Tournament, and I finally decided it was enough when Halo 5 was such a disappointment. After seeing a genre evolve for such a long time, it is really hard to go back to the very beginning and deal with the simplistic controls again. Another problem was that this game isn't quite right for my arcade machine. I had to hook up a mouse, which is always weird for me since I don't usually use that device for gaming anymore these days. I guess I could have used a keyboard, but I decided to move everything with the arcade stick, which didn't really work very well. Vermin Trap takes the number 6 spot. This is a great game, and I can see myself checking out the 4-player mode with a couple of friends one fine day. It reminds me very much of Wizard of War, which I played a lot on my C64 as a kid. Once again, I have some problems with the controls. Sadly, you have to push 2 buttons to fire, and even worse, those 2 buttons aren't very close together. This is not Locomalito's fault. It's just the way the arcade machine is set up. As I mentioned in my previous videos, I want to present the out-of-the-box experience in these videos. I'm quite sure that it will be very easy to change the button layout, and once I've done that, Vermin Trap will be a joy to play. I just love these single screen maze shooters, and I will never grow tired of them. Let's kick off the top 5 with Garudan. Even though the gameplay is quite different, I always have to think about Rampage when I'm playing this one. In Garudan, you take control of a legendary monster, and your goal is to eradicate all of those pesky humans. You are basically thrown into a level full of buildings and people defending them with tanks, helicopters and all sorts of weapons. Only if you kill everything you are allowed to progress to the next stage. This is a simple and fun shooter, which you can pick up for a quick retro gaming fix at any time. Endless Forms Most Beautiful, or EFMB for short, is not an original game by Locomalito, but rather a remake of an old Spectrum title he felt very passionate about. I never played the original, but I can totally see why he is obsessed with it. This is another single-screen game with interesting and challenging gameplay mechanics. Basically, you have to collect stuff and avoid stuff. But the way you switch between the platforms and the ever-increasing number of obstacles make this one quite challenging and fun. This really took me back to the old arcade days when I spent all my dough on games like Bubble Bobble and Pac-Man. Cool game and a very well-deserved 4th place. They Came from Verminous is the 3rd best game Locomalito ever created in my opinion. I love me some Galaga, and I played it on many different systems throughout the years. Even though my NES Mini came with a lot of stuff, it is still the game I come back to on a regular basis. So it's no surprise that Verminous made such an impression on me, since it is a classic shooter with all the elements that make games of this type so addictive. The graphics are really simple and I love them dearly. The black and white color scheme makes me feel so nostalgic that I struggle to put my excitement into words. This one is pretty much the reason I bought my machine. Simple gameplay, tight controls, what more could you want from an arcade game? Verminous even comes with a couple of filters that make it look even more nostalgic. I will go on eBay right now and get me some of those old school 3D colored glasses, so I can experience the 3D mode. Great game. The runner-up in my list of Locomalito games is Fedora. If there is a shooter I love more than Galaga, it's Nemesis. Actually, there are quite a few games of this type that I remember fondly. R-Type, Gradius, Einhander, and does anyone except for me remember Katakis? If so, please let me know in the comments, because it was awesome and I never hear about it. Fedora has everything that makes those classics great. Intense action without going into bullet hell territory, great power-ups and amazing boss fights. I did play this one for hours and I'm looking forward to going back for more. We made it all the way to number 1. Maldita Castilla, also known as Cursed Castilla in some areas, is my favorite game by Locomalito. If you are an older gamer, the main influence should be quite obvious to you. Ghosts and Goblins was a game that drove many people quite mad in the 80s. It was brilliant but also incredibly hard. Even though I really tried, I never finished it on the NES. But I'm quite sure that I will see the ending of Maldita Castilla soon. This one is definitely easier than the original, and that's a good thing. Apart from that, it has everything you expect from a tribute to the classic tale of knights and demons. This is an amazing side-scroller with authentic pixel art that takes you back in time. As you can see, it has scan lines which makes it look exactly like an arcade machine from more than 30 years ago. The controls are very responsive, which is especially important during the great boss encounters. Locomalito even put in terrible weapons that make you curse the moment you pick them up, just like you did back when you played Ghosts and Goblins. Maldita Castilla is basically a dream come true for anybody who loves old school arcade games. As you might have noticed, all Locomalito games run without any noticeable glitches. There isn't any emulation involved this time, since these are simply the PC versions. The greatest thing about them is that you can pretty much play them all without spending any money. These are freeware and can be downloaded from Locomalito's website, which I have included in the description of this video. You can also get enhanced versions for various platforms if you are willing to pay for them. I actually felt guilty for having so much fun, so it was important to me that some of my money finds its way to the creator. It turns out that it is quite hard to accomplish that transition if you are mainly a collector of physical games for consoles such as me. Cursed Castilla was released in physical form for the PS4 and the Vita, but sadly it seems to be out of print. I bought it on eBay, but that won't really help Locomalito, so I also bought the digital version for one of my Switches. Even though it looks really cool, I didn't even open the Vita Collector's Edition yet. I guess I'll wait for a special occasion. Then I'll pour some wine, put on some berry white, and slowly remove the foil. That was pretty much all for today. Great retro-style games by a really dedicated developer and everything is free. Can't really ask for much more. The only thing that bothers me is that Locomalito doesn't seem to include classic high score lists in his games. I really miss those these days. But oh well, you can't have everything. So, thanks for watching, have fun gaming, and I hope to see you back here. Bye!